she said. "It's just a few drinks with my ex. Don't be insecure." That night, a friend sent me a photo, her on his lap, laughing like she used to with me. I didn't confront her. I just packed my things and left her key on the counter. She called me 19 times. I never picked up. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. The scent of searing garlic and rosemary chicken filled the apartment, a smell I knew she loved. It was Tuesday, our unofficial, no-fuss date night. I'd left work an hour early to make it happen. Her favorite meal, the good pasta, the bottle of Pinot Noir she'd been talking about trying, breathing on the counter. The kitchen was warm, steamy, a little bubble of contentment in the city's constant gray drizzle. My phone buzzed on the counter, lighting up with her name. A smile touched my lips, probably telling me she was on her way. "Running late, sweetie. Catching up with Sarah from work. Be home by 7. No problem." I turned the heat down low, letting the chicken rest. I set the table, even lit the stupid decorative candle she'd bought from that overpriced home goods store. I liked the ritual of it. I liked building a life with her, piece by small, careful piece. The key rattled in the lock at 7:15. She blew in like a storm of perfume and damp air, shrugging off her coat and letting her bag drop to the floor with a familiar thud. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes bright with the residual energy of the day. "Something smells amazing," she said, coming up behind me and wrapping her arms around my waist, her chin resting on my shoulder. I leaned back into the embrace, breathing her in. This was the good stuff. This was what it was all about. "Just your Tuesday special," I said, turning to kiss her forehead. We ate, the conversation easy. She told me about Sarah's drama with her boyfriend, about the frustrating client at her marketing firm. I listened, adding commentary, making her laugh. It was perfect, normal, the kind of night you take for granted until it's gone. She was mid-sentence, twirling pasta onto her fork, when she paused, a sly look crossing her face. "So," she said, drawing the word out. "You'll never guess who messaged me today." "Who?" I asked, taking a sip of wine. "Jake." The name landed between us, simple and harmless, but it changed the air pressure in the room. Jake, her ex-boyfriend, the one from the stories that always ended with her shaking her head and saying, "God, what a mess that was." I set my glass down carefully. "Jake? Your ex Jake?" "Yeah," she said, her voice still light, but I could see a new tension in her shoulders. "Can you believe it? He's in town for some big tech conference. He wants to grab a few drinks tomorrow night. For old time's sake." The words hung there. Drinks. Tomorrow night. Old time sake. I felt a cold, slick knot form in my stomach. I looked at her, at the carefully constructed nonchalance on her face, and chose my words with the precision of a bomb disposal expert. "Drinks with your ex," I said, my voice even. "Just the two of you." Her smile tightened at the edges, a familiar defense mechanism clicking into place. She put her fork down with a soft clink. "Oh, don't start," she said, the warmth leaching from her voice. "It's just a few drinks. Don't be so insecure." There it was. The word. Insecure. It was her trump card, her get-out-of-jail-free card for any situation where I expressed discomfort or a boundary. She wielded it like a weapon, pathologizing my very normal, very human feelings. And it worked every time. It made me feel small, like I was the one with the problem. I took a slow breath, keeping my gaze level. "It's not about insecurity, Qley. It's about respect. My respect for you, and what I'd hope would be your respect for me and for this." I gestured vaguely between us, at the home we'd built. She rolled her eyes, a dramatic, practiced motion, and pushed her chair back from the table. "Well, I'm going. It's not a debate. I can have friends." She stood up, grabbing her half-empty wine glass. "I'm not going to be controlled." And with that, she walked out of the kitchen, leaving me sitting there in the warm, fragrant room, the candle flickering beside my plate. The silence she left behind was louder than any argument. I looked at her abandoned dinner, at the empty chair, and the knot in my stomach tightened. The first crack had appeared, and I knew, with a chilling certainty, that it was about to split our world in two. The apartment felt different the next night. Hollow. The familiar comfort of the space had been vacuumed out, replaced by a low, humming tension. I tried to pretend it was a normal evening. I reheated the leftover chicken pasta, but it tasted like ash. I scrolled through streaming services, landing on a mindless action movie I'd seen a dozen times. The explosions and car chases were just noise, a futile attempt to drown out the clock on the wall, ticking relentlessly toward 8 p.m. She'd left 2 hours ago after a perfunctory, tense exchange. "You're really not going to say anything?" she'd asked, spraying on her perfume, the expensive one she saved for special occasions. "What would you like me to say, Qley?" I'd replied from the couch, not looking up from my book. "I don't know. Have fun. Be safe." Something a normal boyfriend would say. I just nodded slowly. Be safe, then. It was the wrong kind of safe. I knew it. She knew it. She'd left with a huff, the door closing a little too firmly behind her. Now, alone, the silence was oppressive. My phone was a lead weight on the coffee table. I wasn't going to check it. I wasn't going to be that guy. But every few minutes, my eyes would flicker over to the dark screen, my mind conjuring images I desperately didn't want to see. "Don't be insecure," her voice echoed in my head, a taunt. The movie's hero was delivering a cheesy one-liner when my phone finally lit up. Not with her name, but with Mark's. A jolt of something, dread, curiosity, shot through me. Mark was a mutual friend, a good guy. Grounded. I picked up the phone. "Mark, hey man, I'm at the Baxter. I see Qley. With some guy?" My blood went cold. The Baxter was a dimly lit cocktail lounge, all plush velvet and intimate booths. Not a casual pub. I forced my fingers to type, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Me? Yeah, her ex, Jake. It's just drinks." The 3 dots appeared. They hovered for an eternity. I held my breath. The action movie's soundtrack swelled, a completely dissonant soundtrack to the moment my life was about to detonate. Then, a new message. "Mark, does just drinks usually involve her sitting on his lap?" The words didn't fully register. They were just letters on a screen, abstract and impossible. My mind rejected them. Sitting on his lap. It was a phrase from a bad soap opera, not from my life. Before I could form a coherent thought, my phone buzzed again. A photo. I tapped it. The image filled the screen. And time stopped. The photo was slightly grainy, taken from across the bar, but it was unmistakably her. She was perched on Jake's lap, her side to the camera. She was wearing the black dress I'd told her she looked incredible in last Christmas. Jake's arm was wrapped around her waist. His hand splayed possessively on her hip. His other hand held a highball glass, and he was looking directly into the camera lens with a smug, knowing smirk, as if he'd just won a prize. But it was her expression that drove the shard of ice directly into my heart. Her head was thrown back in a full, unguarded, open-mouthed laugh. It was a laugh of pure, unadulterated joy. It was the same laugh I'd fallen in love with, the one she'd given me so freely in the early days, the one that had become increasingly rare over the last year. A laugh I hadn't realized was missing until I saw her giving it so effortlessly to him, laughing like she used to with me. The thought was a clean, precise cut. This wasn't just a breach of trust, it was a historical rewrite. It was proof that the joy I thought we shared wasn't gone. It had just been redirected. The cold numbness of shock spread through my limbs. The noise of the movie faded into a distant, meaningless buzz. There was no rage, no screaming fit. There was only the photograph and the devastating, crystal-clear truth it represented. "Don't be insecure." The phrase echoed once more, but this time, it held no power over me. It was exposed, naked and pathetic. It wasn't a diagnosis of my character. It was a preemptive shield for her own shitty behavior. She had called me insecure not because I was, but because she knew, on some level, that she was about to do something that would justify any partner's deepest fears. I looked around the living room, at the couch we'd picked out together, at the books on the shelves, at the life we'd built. It all looked like a stage set now, props for a play that had just ended. The trust wasn't just broken. It was obliterated, erased, and in its place was a quiet, terrifying clarity. I picked up the remote and turned off the television. The silence that rushed in was no longer oppressive. It was peaceful. It was final. I had my answer. And now, I knew exactly what I had to do. A strange, almost supernatural calm settled over me. The roaring in my ears ceased, replaced by a silent, crystalline focus. There was no more doubt, no more pain, just a simple, undeniable truth, and a clear path forward. I didn't slam my fist into the wall. I didn't cry. I didn't even text her a single, furious word. Any reaction, any outburst, would have been a form of engagement, a piece of my energy thrown back into the black hole of her drama. She didn't deserve that. She deserved nothing. I stood up from the couch, my movements deliberate and steady. I walked to the hall closet and pulled out my large suitcase and a duffel bag. I didn't need everything. I just needed what was mine. The packing was methodical, almost meditative. I started with my office, my laptop, my important files, the signed first edition book my grandfather had given me. I moved to the bedroom, opening drawers quietly. I took my clothes, my watch, the cufflinks I wore for interviews. I left the sweater she'd bought me for my birthday folded neatly in the drawer. I left the silly, matching pajamas we'd worn last Christmas. They were props, just like everything else. In the bathroom, I cleared my side of the counter. Toothbrush, razor, cologne. I left the expensive skincare set she'd insisted I try. Every item I left behind felt like shedding a weight. This wasn't about running away. It was about reclaiming myself. Each possession of mine that went into the bag was a piece of me I was taking back. The last thing I packed was a single photo from my nightstand. It was of me and my brother fishing on a lake at dawn. It had nothing to do with her. It was from a life before her, and it would be part of the life after. I zipped the suitcase. The apartment was now just a shell. It held the ghost of a relationship that had, I now saw, been dying for a long time. The photo was merely the final, definitive autopsy report. I took one last look around. Then, I went to the kitchen counter. I pulled a single piece of paper from the notepad we used for grocery lists. I didn't write a novel. I didn't explain my pain or list her betrayals. That would have been a gift, a confession that she still had power over my emotions. I uncapped a pen and wrote 2 words. Just 2. You were right. It was the ultimate, unassailable closure. She was right. I shouldn't have been with someone who made me feel insecure. She was right to show me, in the most brutal way possible, exactly who she was. I was finally agreeing with her. I placed the note on the clean countertop. Next to it, I set my key. The finality of the metal clicking against the granite was the only sound in the silent apartment. As I wheeled my suitcase to the door, my phone started to vibrate in my pocket. I pulled it out. Her name glowed on the screen, a frantic, pulsing accusation. I didn't reject the call. I didn't block her. I simply pressed the side button, silencing it, and watched the screen go black. I walked out, closing the door behind me with a soft, definitive click. The hallway was quiet. The elevator ride down was smooth. As I loaded my bags into the trunk of my car, the phone started vibrating again. And again, I got in, started the engine, and pulled away from the curb. I drove through the neon-washed streets, the city lights blurring into streaks of color. The first few calls came in rapid succession, lighting up the car's console. Then they became more sporadic. Desperate. I didn't look. I just drove, the hum of the engine and the whisper of the tires on asphalt a soothing lullaby. For the first time in months, I felt a profound, unshakable peace. I was free. I drove to Mark's place. He opened the door before I could even knock, his face a mixture of pity and grim understanding. "Hey man," he said, stepping aside. "Hey," I replied, my voice even. "Can I crash on your couch for a bit?" "For as long as you need." He helped me with my bags. He didn't ask a lot of questions, for which I was grateful. I gave him the short version. She went. I saw the picture. I left. Mark just nodded. "You did the right thing." The first night, I lay on his couch, staring at the ceiling. The initial numbness was wearing off, and the ache was setting in. It wasn't the sharp pain of betrayal anymore. It was the deep, throbbing ache of loss. The loss of a future I'd believed in. The loss of my home. The loss of the person I thought I knew. But I didn't break. I let the ache exist. I didn't fight it, and I didn't run from it by texting her. I just breathed through it. The next morning, I went for a run. I pounded the pavement until my lungs burned and my muscles screamed, sweat and city grime mixing on my skin. It was a purge. When I got back, exhausted and clear-headed, I saw the notifications on my phone. I had silenced her calls, but the voicemails and texts piled up like debris after a storm. I didn't listen to them. Not yet. But I could see the previews. The first one, from last night. "What the hell? Where are you? Are you seriously this mad? This is childish. Call me back. Confused anger. A few hours later. Okay, fine, it was a mistake. It looked worse than it was. You know I love you. Just come home so we can talk about this. The manipulative plea. Then, this morning, a long text. I can't believe you just abandoned us over this. It was just a fun night. He was leaving town, it meant nothing. You're really overreacting and being cruel. This is not who you are. The you overreacted gambit. I didn't respond. The silence was my reply. It was the only reply that held any power. Any words from me would be fuel. My silence was a void, and she was screaming into it. I spent the week building a new routine. I found a cheap, furnished month-to-month rental apartment. It was sterile and beige, but it was mine. I went to work. I came home. I ran. I called old friends I'd lost touch with while wrapped up in my life with Qley. I had beers with Mark. I started reading again. The texts and voicemails continued, their tone shifting as the days bled into a week, and then 2. VM, day 5, are you even getting these? I'm starting to get worried. This isn't funny anymore. Just tell me you're alive. Feigned concern. Text, day 8. I went by your work. They said you were there. So you're just ignoring me. Fine. Be a petulant child. See if I care. The angry bluff. VM, day 12. The lease is up in 2 months. What am I supposed to do? We need to talk about this. You can't just run away from adult problems. Practical coercion. I still didn't listen to the full messages. The previews were enough. I could chart the descent of her mental state through them. The anger was fading, replaced by a dawning, panicked realization. The control she had always wielded with a word or a look was gone. I had taken it back by simply refusing to play the game. I was healing. The ache was still there, but it was a background noise now, like the distant sound of traffic. The space she had occupied in my mind was slowly being filled with new things. The burn in my legs after a long run, the plot of a new book, the easy laughter with a friend. I was moving on. And my silence was the quiet, immovable force that was forcing her to finally, for the first time, face the consequences of her actions. Alone, the silence became my sanctuary. After a month in my sterile, beige apartment, it started to feel like home. I'd bought a plant. I'd hung a few pictures. The space was filled with the quiet sounds of my own life. The click of a keyboard, the drip of coffee, the turning of a page. The phantom limb of my relationship with Qley had stopped aching. It was just gone. The texts and calls had trickled to a stop about a week prior. The previews had shown a final, furious burst. Fine. Forget it. I hope you're happy being alone. You've made your choice. I'd almost felt a sense of closure. The storm, it seemed, had passed. I was wrong. It had just been gathering strength. I was at the gym, drenched in sweat and pushing through the last set of a deadlift, when my phone buzzed on the floor. I saw her name and ignored it. After my shower, as I was getting dressed, it buzzed again. And again. 3 missed calls. Then, a voicemail. Something in my gut told me this one was different. The frantic energy of the earlier calls was absent. This felt heavier. I finished tying my shoes, walked out into the crisp evening air, and leaned against the side of the building. I took a deep breath and pressed play. Her voice was raw, shredded. It wasn't the performative crying of before. This was the real, ugly thing. Hey, it's me. A shaky, wet inhalation. I don't even know where to start. Jake. He wasn't who I thought he was. He used me. He got what he wanted, and he just left. Ghosted me. He's back with his ex-girlfriend in Seattle. I saw the pictures. She broke off into a sob. I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No pity. It was like listening to a news report about a flood in a country I'd never visited. I see it now. God, I was so stupid. So stupid. I threw away everything we had for that. Her voice cracked on the word. What we had was real. This was all a huge mistake. A massive, fucking nightmare. There was a long pause, filled with the sound of her trying to compose herself. Please, she whispered, the word barely audible. Please, just call me back. I need you. I have no one to talk to. Sarah won't even take my calls after I told her what happened. I need you. The message ended. I stood there, the phone still pressed to my ear for a moment longer. The calculus of her apology was breathtaking. She wasn't sorry for betraying me. She was sorry her bet had failed. She wasn't sorry for shattering my trust. She was sorry she felt lonely and humiliated. She wasn't reaching out for me. She was reaching out for a life raft. I deleted the voicemail. Then, for the first time, I went into my settings and blocked her number. The action felt clean, surgical. It wasn't born of anger, but of preservation. I was protecting the peace I had built. A few days later, a message came through from an unknown number. It was a wall of text. Unknown, I know you blocked me. Mark told me. I get it. I deserve that. But please, you have to understand the state I was in. I was lost. He manipulated me. I wasn't thinking straight. What I did was horrible, but it wasn't the real me. The real me is the one who made you pasta and watched stupid movies with you. That's the person who loves you. Can we just have coffee? One coffee. No expectations. I just need to see your face. I stared at the message. It wasn't the real me. The ultimate abdication of responsibility. The person who made the choice, who laughed on his lap, who called me insecure, that was just a phantom. The real her was the one who wanted comfort now. I didn't reply. I blocked the new number. The attempt stopped. The silence returned, deeper and more profound than before. I knew it was over. She had run out of moves. Her king was trapped, and I had long since left the board. 3 months to the day after I'd walked out, Mark was having a birthday gathering at a low-key pub. He'd insisted I come. You can't become a hermit, man. Life goes on. Besides, he'd added with a grin, I need my wingman. I went. I wore a simple button-down shirt, one I'd bought for myself after I'd moved out. I felt good. Light. The gnawing emptiness was gone, replaced by a steady, quiet confidence. The pub was loud and cheerful. I was laughing at something Mark's girlfriend had said, a genuine, easy laugh, when I felt the atmosphere shift at my back. I turned. She was standing there, 5 feet away, looking like a ghost from a life I'd barely remembered. She was thinner. Her eyes, ringed with faint shadows, were fixed on me with a terrifying intensity. She looked brittle. The group's conversation died down. Mark shot me a look that said, I'm sorry, I had no idea she'd come. She took a hesitant step forward. Hey. I gave a slight, polite nod. Qley, can we talk? She asked, her voice thin and reedy. For a minute? Outside. She gestured vaguely toward the door, her hands fluttering like wounded birds. I didn't move from my spot, leaning casually against the high-top table. I'm here for Ben's birthday, I said, my tone neutral, as if she'd asked me the time. But if you need to say something, you can say it here. A flush crept up her neck. This wasn't the script she'd written. In her version, I'd either storm off or finally break down and listen. My calm indifference was a scenario she hadn't prepared for. She stammered, glancing at our silent, watching friends. I know I messed up. I was an idiot. What I said to you, calling you insecure. I didn't mean it. I was just scared. I said nothing. I just waited. I see you, she continued, her voice gaining a desperate momentum. I see how you are now. You look great. And I'm a wreck. My life is a wreck. And it's all my fault. I know that now. What we had, it was real. This was all a huge mistake. She was waiting for me to absolve her. To say, it's okay, so she could stop hating herself. So I did. It's okay, I said, my voice even in quiet. Her eyes lit up with a flicker of desperate, pathetic hope. It is. Yes, I replied, holding her gaze. I didn't smile. I didn't frown. I was simply stating a fact. It just doesn't matter anymore. The hope in her eyes shattered. It was replaced by a raw, bewildered hurt. She had expected anger, forgiveness, something, anything, to prove she still had a hold on me. My utter disinterest was a void she couldn't comprehend. I glanced past her, toward the bar. I hope you figure things out, I said, the way you might wish a stranger good luck. Excuse me. I didn't wait for a response. I turned my back, picked up my glass of IPA, and turned to Mark. So, as I was saying, about that hiking trip. The conversation slowly, awkwardly, started up again around me. I didn't look back. I took a sip of my beer and engaged fully with my friends, with my life. After a minute, I heard the pub door open and close with a soft sigh. I didn't turn to watch her go. She was already gone. The last thread, the one tied to the man who had cared so deeply what she thought, finally snapped. Not with a scream, but with the quiet, effortless finality of a forgotten thought. I was free, truly and completely free. And the silence that remained was mine. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.